At some point, you have to understand and realize that there is some type of, not written law, but some type of universal law on how things all work. And when you start intentionally taking down family members, and then you look back on when the taking down started to happen, and then all of a sudden people start dying. Like in 2015, I'm barely struggling. Going from 2014 to 2015. My only focus was maintaining a roof over my head so my son could come home. And then it's March 11th, 2015, and this water meter, I call it a water meter breakage, but it was really the push testing those water lines. Flooded my basement, and the series of events that took place right after that. So it's like literally, a little over a week before he's coming home, and then they make my house inhabitable by doing that. That was an intentional act. And then I couldn't get it fixed because they started putting all these stipulations on me. I needed a certificate of occupancy. And before I could get the certificate of occupancy, they entered that into law on March 15th, prohibiting me from getting the replacement water meter, even though I got the repairs fixed. They wouldn't shut off the water at the main, so my basement continued to flood. Then they pulled this occupancy bullshit. And before I could get a certificate of occupancy, I had to do all these repairs to my house that I had no money planned in advance to do any of these repairs. And then after that, they started instituting nuisance laws and applying those to me. I'm a nuisance. I didn't do that to myself. I didn't go out there and hire a contractor to push, water through the water system because the water that was coming out of people's pipes, including my pipes, was red. I didn't do that. That's ancient old shit that was never maintained correctly to begin with. But what happened after that? I ended up living 4 years in that house with no running water, no electricity, and no heat. No income because I had to shut my business down. Ended up with no vehicle. And every time I applied for help and assistance, I got denied. And the last time I got denied from Livingston County, it's because they made my sister Tony the legal mental health guardian. And they said in their report that I have resources, meaning her. It has nothing to do with mental health. You try living in those conditions for year on end and surviving and see how it makes you feel. That's intentionally degrading a person, a military veteran. You intentionally degraded me to the point where I finally figured out you were killing military veterans to gain congressional funding. You were killing off military veterans in Livingston County to get money, taking down their children for money. And then when that brief came out in 2020, oh yes, hindsight is fucking everything, isn't it? The look back on all the shit that was done to me and my kids for money. Intentionally putting people in harm's way for money. Like you couldn't come up with some life-saving measures like the military actually does, but you go around killing people to justify the need for more funds in your sick little community. That's you, Livingston County. And then you want to tote around that I was refusing help from you when you were denying me every step of the way. I got denied for winterization. I got denied for heat. I didn't have any way to heat that house except I got a kerosene heater, and all I needed was the kerosene, and they denied me that. Denied me the fucking kerosene. You try backing yourself up in a fucking closet with one of your dogs, the one that's sitting in this car with me, with a sleeping bag to stay warm in the middle of the winter with no fucking heat. That's degrading. That's inhumane treatment of an individual for the pure collection of dollar bills. That is sick, twisted people. They should not be allowed to receive any tax dollars moving forward. They should be under the scope of investigation. They should be highly monitored. All their bills should be pushed up levels, multiple levels, for approval, and have somebody else pay those bills for them until this complete investigation is over with. They were allowed to do these things to people. It's not just me. It was a lot of people. Because there is no oversight on any of these lower level governments throughout the United States. The job of a governor is to manage those lower forms of government and make sure they're all in sync and all in check, and they're not abusing their powers and taking things at their own discretion to feed their own self-worth. It doesn't happen. And I don't give a shit now that Cuomo is out of there. This Kathy Hochul, is that how you pronounce your name? Kathy Hochul? You ain't no better. Because when you were the lieutenant governor, you did nothing. Absolutely nothing to fix any of these issues at a lower level. You need to get the hell out of there. And I hope when there is an election, you're not fucking these women in power today, you need to decrease that shit. They get together, they get their little sick minds working with their little manipulating tactics, and they lower all women. Well, how were you born? Through the vessel of a man? Huh? Do you want to lower women when women give birth to children? Is that what you want to do? You know, this whole thing with women's rights at some point somebody needs to go back and do a fucking double check on it, okay? You need to revoke some of that shit. Because they're just catty, pathetic, manipulating women that cause detrimental harm to a large pool of people with their sick, twisted thoughts. It's got to stop. Women should have never been put in the position of power because they don't have what it takes to rationalize and separate out what's really important for people. They're so focused on their inner selves, and they have such huge jealous strands that they can't get over that. They can't rationally think and put things in the right places. Women should not be in a position of power over other people, large quantities of people. It's wrong. Makes me sick. This country makes me sick. Seriously. Overall, it's a sickness.